What's up, guys? We are back with another Marvel Legends review, taking a look at another figure in the Age of Apocalypse Sugar Man wave. We're taking a look at Wild Child today, and this is the actual Age of Apocalypse version. It's the one that I think of when I think of Wild Child. I don't ever think of any other versions. This is always the one that kind of sticks out in my mind, so I'm glad we're actually getting this figure. Of course, I really wish we were getting an AOA Sabertooth to go along with him, but that's a different story. So we've got this guy here in the standard Marvel Legends packaging, figure in the window, got the X-Men logo down there on the bottom, some fantastic artwork of Apocalypse and Wild Child on the side, and then a product shot lineup for the wave, and then a little tiny write-up for the character on the back. So let's do it. Let's pull him out, take a look. And here he is out of the package, our AOA Wild Child figure. And after playing around with this figure and sort of seeing how his lone accessory works, I really have to think they're going to give us an AOA Sabertooth at some point. It sort of seems like that's what's going to happen. I mean, really, how could they not at this point? But that's neither here nor there. So let's take a look, see what this guy can do. Despite the fact that he does not have his partner with him, it will be cool to see what this guy is capable of, because I am pretty excited about this guy. Age of Apocalypse really does it for me. That entire storyline is something that I remember from when I was a kid, so it just has a nostalgic thing for me. And Wild Child's not exactly a fan favorite character, I'm sure, for most, but I like this character, I like this version of him, and how he kind of plays off Sabertooth. So we've got a figure with a head that can look pretty far up. I mean, this is what, Pizza Spidey body, so we kind of know what to expect. He looks down really far. You've got a little bit of tilt, full rotation, of course. Arms go out at the shoulders. They do rotate all the way around. You've got your butterfly joint there. We've got bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, and then you've got hinges and rotation at the wrist. We've got an ab crunch that doesn't go back very far, but doesn't go forward very far either, about that far. Then you've got a waist twist. Legs go out only that far, which is still a problem with this body. They kick forward really far, though, and then they kick backwards only slightly. Thigh cut, double jointed knees, and then you've got rocker, and you've got hinges down at those ankles. They work pretty well. So he moves pretty decently. I still don't know about this body in general, since it's kind of tired. It's definitely a little old. It doesn't move as well as it should for what it's supposed to be in terms of really agile characters, but you can still manage to get this guy into some pretty solid poses, and frankly, his wiry, really small frame translates nicely when it comes to using this figure, this particular body, because he very much needs to be a really small character compared to a lot of the other just normal X-Men characters. Now, as far as the overall look and feel in this figure, there's really not a lot to talk about, because he is just in sort of this mustard color suit here, sort of spicy mustard. There is some color change going on here. I don't know if it's really noticeable, but the torso and arms are slightly different from the legs. It's slight, it's not too noticeable, but it is there. There's a little bit of paint on his hands. He doesn't have claws on these hands for some reason, which I'm not really sure about. He pretty much always did, so it was kind of weird to not have those. But the hands do look good in this particular pose. I like those quite a bit. You've got the very, freakishly clawed feet down here, so those look really nice. They look really gaunt and wiry, which works well with his frame. You've got the sort of collar piece that sits on him with some nice silver accents. Everything's pretty crisp and clean. It's got a little bit of a sculpt to it to give it kind of a leather look, so it's a little distressed in some ways. There is a little bit of shading in the musculature on the figure, and then you do have a little clip on the back for his chain, which we will talk about in a minute, because I did not know that was there until I got him out of the box. That was kind of a nice surprise. The overwhelming majority of this figure's character, though, is really all about the head sculpt, and especially the expression they gave him. So this version of Wild Child is like the feral, the very, I don't know, just dumb version of Wild Child. He's not really smart. He can't communicate. He is incredibly wild, which, I mean, it fits the name, but he's more like a dog when it comes to being Sabertooth's partner. And they gave him a really, really nasty expression, which I like. Some of his face is kind of obscured by his hair, but that's the way it was worn, so it's not too weird. It's just when you're trying to get him dead on, it kind of obscures some of his face. But that is movable a little bit, so you do have some way to see in there if you've got enough lighting. There is a pretty decent sculpt underneath that hair. The furrowed brow, the bushy eyebrows. The mouth is really the focal point for me, though. The teeth are really cleanly painted. The tongue is really nicely done. And then you've got that kind of wild, no pun intended, windswept hair with the bangs, and then the mutton chops on the side. I really dig this head sculpt. I think it works really well. It's very much the defining characteristic of this figure. It's a really big thing as far as the character itself, just because he always had some sort of gnarly expression, and I think they did a pretty good job of translating that into figure form, making him look really feral and just sort of like a berserker at all times. Now, as far as the accessories on this guy, the chain is really all there is. There's not a whole lot else to give him, and they did give us the chain. It is a static plastic piece, and it does clip into the piece on his back. So it just has a little prong there. You pop it on the back, and it'll just stay in place, and it'll kind of hinge and go around him, so you can kind of move it up and down a little bit. So it does, it's not, hinged or anything, but it does allow you to move it inside that little slot there. It is a static piece, like I said. You can't bend it or shape it. It's not a bendy wire of any kind. It's just the pearlescent plastic. There's no paint on it, but it does have this bunched up part down here, which is definitely meant to give to someone to hold, because he's supposed to be on someone's leash. It's Sabertooth. He's supposed to be on Sabertooth's leash, and that's what this is. So at least for the time being, you've got the more Jim Lee 90s style Sabertooth figure that we got not too long ago. You can wrap this around his arm and he can hold him on his leash. So I do like the idea behind it. I do think, of course, that this is what makes me, kind of think that we're going to get an AOA Sabertooth, because that's what this is for. It's not meant to just lay on the ground or anything. It's meant to be held. And the fact that it's able to be clipped onto the figure just tells me that someone's supposed to hold this. It's just a matter of, when are we going to get him? So I like the idea behind it. I'm not so sure we have a whole lot to do with it yet, but I'm hoping that we will soon. So yeah, like I said, there's not a whole lot to this figure because, well, he's just a scrawny little guy with a chain, but I do think he's a pretty solid figure. There's really not a whole lot that I can say negative about him outside of the fact that the body that he's on is definitely a little tired at this point because, of course, there are different, more agile bodies out there. There just aren't a whole lot of more scrawny bodies, and that's what he really needs. He needs to be the little tiny, scrawny guy, and this body does excel in that. So I do think he looks really good. I like the collar that he has. I love the head sculpt. I love the paint on the head. And I really do like the chain. It's a static piece, but once you can get somebody else to hold it, it will be a really nice duo. It'll be a nice pair. So hopefully we're going to get that AOA Sabertooth that I've talked about way too much in this review, and we can have a nice team up between them because frankly, that'll make for an awesome display on a shelf, and it'll put this chain to really good use. So that's going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends Age of Apocalypse Wave Wild Child. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.